Rosalia's latest single, Berghane, represents a daring metamorphosis in her artistic journey, a declaration that she refuses to be confined by genre or expectation. Released in late October 2025, the song arrives as both a surprise and a statement, a collision of techno-minimalism, orchestral grandeur, and spiritual intensity. The title itself, referencing the iconic Berlin nightclub known for its secrecy and raw energy, signals the depth of this transformation. By invoking Berghane, Rosalía positions herself at the crossroads of underground culture and global stardom, the gritty and the divine. The song's production merges haunting string arrangements by the London Symphony Orchestra with a pulsating bassline reminiscent of European warehouse raves. Vocally, Rosalía switches fluidly between Spanish, Catalan, English, and even fragments of German, a deliberate linguistic collage mirroring her cosmopolitan identity. Critics have described it as a techno requiem or a pop opera for the sleepless generation. Beneath the sonic experimentation lies a meditation on self-exposure, control, and spiritual longing. The artist, once defined by her mastery of flamenco tradition, now wields electronic dissonance as her new form of duende, that emotional rawness so essential to her art. In doing so, Rosalía not only challenges the sonic conventions of mainstream pop but also confronts her audience with a new, immersive experience that feels less like a single and more like an event, a portal, or a confession under strobe lights. With Berghane, she doesn't just reinvent her sound, she redefines what global pop can aspire to, a union of intellect, chaos, and transcendence. If Berghane redefined Rosalía's sound, its visual language transformed how the world perceives her artistry. The accompanying music video, directed by Nicolás Méndez, of Canada, unfolds like a fever dream where faith, fashion, and chaos intertwine. It opens with Rosalía walking barefoot through a dim cathedral-like space, her body half-lit by neon strobes that mimic the pulse of Berlin's underground scene. Every frame feels intentional, merging sacred imagery with digital decay. She wears vintage McQueen in Balenciaga, evoking both martyr and model, a saint of the nightclub. The orchestra, physically present in the video, follows her through crumbling corridors, their instruments covered in dust, as if echoing the persistence of anxiety or memory. Fans have interpreted the ensemble as a metaphor for mental health, the orchestra representing the noise one carries even in silence. This depth of interpretation has driven a viral wave on social media. TikTok edits dissect each symbol, while Reddit threads debate whether Berghane reflects depression, divine awakening, or the paradox of fame. The visual narrative, layered and cryptic, plays like a short film about rebirth through rhythm. Even the lighting, transitioning from deep blue to crimson, mirrors the emotional stages of the song: despair, temptation, release, redemption. By choosing to shoot in 16mm film rather than digital, Rosalía adds a tactile warmth, giving the piece an archival, almost sacred texture. More than a video, Berghane feels like a cinematic sermon where beats become prayers and style becomes storytelling. Through it, Rosalía not only extends her sonic experimentation but also cements her status as one of pop's few artists capable of merging avant-garde visual storytelling with universal emotion. The release of Berghane has rippled beyond music, shaping discussions in fashion, culture, and digital identity. Within days of its premiere, the song became a topic of debate across online think pieces and academic circles, with critics calling it a manifesto for post-genre pop. What makes the trend fascinating is not only Rosalía's sound but the ecosystem it builds, a fusion of underground credibility, intellectual symbolism, and mainstream magnetism. Her references to Berlin's nightlife scene resonate with Gen Z's fascination for authenticity and rebellion, while the orchestral grandeur appeals to audiences craving artistic depth. This duality makes Berghane not just a track but a cultural event, one that redefines how we consume pop. In fashion, its impact is immediate. Runways and editorial shoots begin mimicking her contrast of gothic textures and futuristic minimalism. In social media spaces, the hashtag Berghane Rosalía trends globally, not for choreography or challenges, but for its cinematic analysis and fan theories. Even music marketing seems to pivot. Labels now eye the possibility of concept singles, standalone projects that combine film, performance, and social symbolism. More importantly, the song touches a generational nerve. It captures the fatigue of hypervisibility, the need for sacred spaces, whether spiritual, digital, or nocturnal. For many fans, Rosalía's Berghane represents liberation through controlled chaos, the right to lose oneself and still find meaning. In this sense, it echoes a universal feeling of 2025, a world craving transcendence in the midst of overstimulation. By turning a club into a metaphor for the soul, Rosalía offers both escape and reflection. Berghane is more than sound, it's architecture, theology, and emotion intertwined, marking the moment pop music fully embraces art as ritual. Rosalía's Berghane doesn't just symbolize a sonic experiment, it represents a cultural manifesto for the evolution of modern artistry. In a world where the boundaries between underground and mainstream have dissolved, this single stands as both a mirror and a prophecy. It reflects how global pop stars can now transcend formulas, not merely crafting hits but crafting worlds. The title, borrowed from Berlin's most enigmatic nightclub, becomes a metaphor for the modern artist's dual existence, public yet private, liberated yet scrutinized, divine yet human. Inside Berghane, Rosalía is not performing for the crowd, she is the crowd, the DJ, and the rhythm itself. The song, stripped of traditional structure, becomes a ritual of sound, where repetition and silence hold equal power. The beauty of Berghane lies in its intentional contradictions. It is both sacred and profane, raw and refined, local and global. Rosalía fuses flamenco's ancient lament with techno's metallic pulse, the soul of Spain colliding with the machinery of Berlin. This juxtaposition echoes the state of global culture, fragmented, hybrid, yet striving for coherence. In doing so, she taps into something profoundly human, the desire to merge tradition and futurism, chaos and structure, emotion and intellect. It's not merely a song to be heard, it's a philosophy to be felt. This is why Berghane has sparked essays, university discussions, and think pieces dissecting its layers. For many, it embodies a shift from consumption to contemplation, from playlist filler to existential text. What makes the trends surrounding Berghane especially powerful is its ripple effect across industries. The song's sound design, mixing classical strings with distorted bass lines, is already inspiring producers and DJs to explore orchestral techno hybrids. Fashion houses, particularly in Europe, are interpreting Rosalía's visual language, combining 2000s archive couture with industrial streetwear. Even film directors have noted her approach to storytelling through music videos, minimalist dialogue, maximal emotion, poetic abstraction. These echoes prove that Rosalía is not following a trend, she is creating one, bending cultural fields toward her wavelength. Berghane arrives not just as an aesthetic but as a movement, a call for artists to abandon the algorithmic comfort zone and dive into experimentation. Beyond art and industry, Berghane also touches on the psychology of modern fame. Rosalía's lyrics, fragmented, whispered, almost confessional, portray fame not as victory but as exposure. She likens the dance floor to a confessional booth, the bassline to heartbeat anxiety. In one chilling verse, she sings, "Luz sin sombra no exist, light can't exist without shadow." Here, the artist reveals the paradox of visibility, the more seen she is, the more invisible she feels. This resonates deeply with an audience living through digital overexposure. Every post, every selfie, every viral moment becomes its own kind of nightclub, crowded, noisy, and yet profoundly lonely. By framing Berghane as both sanctuary and trap, Rosalía turns the global stage into a psychological landscape where art becomes therapy, and performance becomes confession. In this sense, Berghane transcends music altogether, it becomes a blueprint for cultural introspection. It asks, what does authenticity mean when every aesthetic is performative? Can vulnerability survive the spotlight? And most importantly, can pop music still carry the weight of philosophy? Rosalía answers these questions not through words, but through design, by constructing a sonic space where spirituality and hedonism coexist. Every beat feels like a step toward understanding modern consciousness, every silence a reminder of what we've lost to speed and spectacle. The future hinted at by Berghane is one of multi-dimensional pop, where albums are not mere playlists but immersive ecosystems of sound, visuals, and ideology. Other artists are already watching, Billie Eilish experimenting with surrealism, FKA Twigs merging robotics and emotion, and Kanye West reimagining faith through digital architecture. Yet Rosalía's edge lies in her ability to make these complexities feel intimate. Her voice, raw, imperfect, trembling, humanizes her avant-garde. No matter how experimental the backdrop, she remains emotionally accessible. That balance between innovation and intimacy will likely define the next phase of pop's evolution. Ultimately, the Berghane phenomenon proves that artistry still matters in an industry obsessed with metrics. It reminds us that creativity isn't about speed, but depth, not about virality, but vulnerability. Rosalía's willingness to risk misunderstanding, to mix languages and genres, to merge religion with rave culture, signals a rebellion against cultural flatness. It's a declaration that pop can still be sacred. For listeners, it becomes a mirror reflecting our contradictions, our desires, our search for meaning in noise. For artists, it becomes a challenge to move beyond algorithmic predictability and embrace chaos as a creative force. Berghane, then, is not just Rosalía's reinvention, it's the reawakening of artistry itself. Infusing emotion with intellect, sound with silence, and darkness with light, she opens a new door for global music. Inside that door, there's no stage, no audience, only rhythm, revelation, and raw humanity. The trend she's begun will echo far beyond 2025, shaping how we define pop, performance, and the very act of creation in an age desperate for depth.